There was a few speeches about big data and AI. You've talked more about the other part, which is AI, artificial intelligence. But what sparked my interest the most was actually trust. I want to ask you, the first question is, how can marketers build trust?
Well, it's a critical point in our marketers' journey right now, because we have access to these tools that enable us to deeply understand consumers, right? And so by using these tools, we can know who we are deep down as individuals. Now, consumers themselves are becoming more sophisticated. You know, we're on Facebook every day, we're on Snapchat, we understand Google, Gmail, how it works. And so we need, as brands, to enable a reinvention of that system of trust. And we do that by exposing how we're using the data to consumers. We're transparent in terms of what the algorithms provide to them. We teach them how to use them to their benefit. We don't try to market to them blindly. We are open and transparent in terms of the value exchange that happens. Consumers trade their data, information about themselves, in exchange for services or insights that help them become better.
Okay, and do you think that's the way it is right now? Do you think that's the reality? Or?
Well, we like to lead by example, right? And increasingly, there's a perception of marketers that we need to change. And this is an opportunity for us to change. You know, at Havas, we like to lead by example. We bring our clients with us. A good example of that is our new trading platform, our programmatic trading platform, which enables transparency to be seen in the buy. And so I think we're the first agency to roll out that sort of level of technology. So this notion of ethics is core to what we believe. There are other folks that aren't necessarily as advanced and mature, and there's a perception in the marketplace that, you know, marketers maybe use that data against the consumers in a way that is not in their best interest. I think that's why we're here today talking about it, is that we have this opportunity to reinvent that relationship. And frankly, if we don't, the brands that demonstrate that in the wrong way perhaps will not be around. So it's a real call to action.
Okay, so you went into the future a little bit, and let's stay over there. So I talked to Michael Kahn before, and he said that in the future the advertising experience is going to be more seamless. People won't know what advertising actually is. How do you see the ethics and the trust in that future?
Well, I think you're talking about a couple things. I mean, the proliferation of the experiences that come from digital information is evolving what the brand is. And some people like to say that the brand is the experience. So it's no longer just, you know, a 30-second spot that interrupts my football game, but it's how I engage with that brand across multiple media. A good example of that could be maybe you're not even going to do the commercials as much as we used to do, but you're going to build these experiences. We're starting to see brands use AI to build those experiences, and that drives value to them. So I think in your point about the future is that the future is here. Not everybody is across it now, and like people like to say, it's not evenly distributed. But there is a race happening right now in terms of use of this information. It's really imperative that we use this information in the right way to make sure those experiences that we're building are ethical and are informed.
Okay, and let me ask you about the example that you showed, because that was a really cool example with the Pope. Okay. How did people react to that? How did the customers react to that campaign? Because it was real, right?
It's real, yeah, it was very real, and you know, intentionally provocative. You know, and that one thing about the client was that they give us these great briefs that, you know, drive, they provoke the user, and that was part of what it was about. The show is a very challenging show. The Pope himself is very challenging, so the campaign wanted to take a little bit of that edge and bring it in. And some people reacted very strongly, and not necessarily in a positive way. But I think that was part of the intent, is to, you know, stir up, you know, dialogue around this. Some people didn't realize that it was actually a Pope bot, and they thought it was like a real thing, and engaged in dialogue back and forth regarding it. Other people responded very vehemently in a way that was not positive to the Pope.
Did the AI handle it? Did the algorithms help handle that?
Yeah, I mean, the main point, remember, was that we're trying to get people to be aware of the show. And so, you know, upon there being a dialogue, we would ensure that they knew that this was around the show. It wasn't a real Pope, right? But sometimes people didn't get the joke, you know. Sometimes people didn't get the joke and got very upset because, you know, especially around haters, you know, people in comments and people on YouTube and people on Twitter, you know, they think they're anonymous, so they're out there saying these things and they're not expecting to be held accountable for those actions. And so when you get caught out, you know, sometimes people have a response that is defensive, right? And that definitely happened. But, you know, what's interesting about that example is it shows you the power, right? So we were able to, in a very short period of time, the scale of AI let us listen to about 5 million social media responses and automate a unique response to 1 million individuals.
That was only in France, right? Or?
We only did that in France because it was the launch of the show in France. And what was interesting about that is if you think about traditional marketing campaigns, or even, you know, sometimes people have social listening centers where they have a team and they're listening in real time. You have a team of people that are writing responses. The amount of time it would take to generate 1 million responses to individuals, huge, huge. Right? So you see the value of AI in that it can automate a lot of these tasks. Sometimes in these talks I give, I talk about, you know, the other side of AI and that it has potential impact on jobs. You know, people talk about that specifically in factories with the robots replacing factory workers, or in electric cars taking out taxi workers. What is self-evident is if any task that is repetitive and that can be done again and again, AI will take it, right? And so that affects marketing as well, right? So in that instance, we used a bot to do the job of a team, and it actually did it faster, better, cheaper. And so you think, well, what is the impact to our business in terms of using these tools? All of us have to think about these questions right now. And that's another big ethical question around AI, is how do we, as people, respond to the impact that this technology will have on us on a societal level? Because there's not enough new jobs to replace those old jobs.
Should we be scared?
I think we need to think about how we educate our children and how we don't give up ourselves to the algorithms. You know, there's a tendency of people just to blindly listen to the devices. You know, I saw a study where people turn on Waze and just follow Waze regardless of what it says. And, you know, sometimes these things make mistakes. You know, they drive into the train or the lake, right? Or they get on the train tracks, and this happens increasingly. So we have this inherent, oh, the machine tells me to do it, I must do it. We need to think about that, and we need to question, you know, wait, it's telling me to turn right, it's left. I know it's left, and not forget ourselves, not forget us as humans, and use these technologies to help us become better.
So let's become better.
Let's become better.
Amen.
Amen. Cheers.
Thanks.